When we say someone is a good person, we don't usually mean that they're rich, powerful, or even especially clever. Across cultures, across centuries, the term has gravitated towards something else entirely. Dependability, trustworthiness, a person you can rely on, maybe even build a future with. They're not good in the sense of outcompeting everyone else. They're good because you can build a society with them. That definition didn't come from nowhere. It wasn't the result of a conference of elders or some ancient TED talk laying out the metrics of moral value. It emerged organically from societies trying to survive. A society made up of impulse, selfish people who break contracts, who hoard resources, won't last long. But if enough people are predictable, if they pull their weight, if they restrain their worst impulses, maybe, just maybe, you can build something together. This isn't a moral theory, it's a survival strategy. And the reason it feels right isn't because it's divine, it's because societies built on those values tended to survive. But the kind of solidarity that holds a tight-knit village together, the same gods, the same routines, same accents, is not the kind of solidarity that holds together a megacity, or a nation, or a digital culture. Durkheim called that older form mechanical solidarity. The unity comes from sameness. You believe what I believe, you pray how I pray, you wear what I wear. We must be on the same side. The problem is, modern life doesn't work like that. We live in a world where our phone was assembled in one country, our clothes were stitched together in another, and our breakfast was shipped from 3 other countries to our doorstep. We work in jobs that didn't exist a generation ago. We collaborate with people whose names we might not even bother to learn, and we live in neighborhoods where no 2 families are the same. So the question becomes, what holds this kind of society together? Durkheim's answer was organic solidarity, not based on sameness, but on difference. Not on shared beliefs, but on interdependence. A social glue that doesn't pretend we're all the same, but recognizes that despite our differences, we still rely on each other. Modern cohesion isn't about uniformity, it's about mutual reliance. You can see this distinction play out in the contrast between small towns and big cities. In small towns or tight-knit rural communities, people often share the same religion, cultural background, routines, and rhythms. There's a sense of familiarity, not just with the faces, but with the values. That's mechanical solidarity. Social cohesion here is built on shared moral codes and a strong collective conscience. It's not necessarily political conservatism, but it's cultural conservatism, the kind that prefers tradition over disruption, cohesion over divergence. And in such places, deviation from the norm feels like a rupture in the social fabric. Cities, by contrast, are patchworks. People come from different places, speak different languages, and live according to different scripts. There's no single value system you can assume everyone shares. And yet, cities function, not because everyone agrees, but because they rely on one another. The delivery driver depends on the software engineer, who depends on the cleaner, who depends on the nurse. That's organic solidarity. It's not shared beliefs that binds the city together, it's interdependence. This is why cities often skew more liberal. They have to. Living in close proximity forces a kind of tolerance. It's not always perfect and often contested, but it's built into the structure. Urban life demands a kind of functional pluralism. You don't have to like your neighbors, but you do need the lights to work, the trains to run, the services to be delivered. That requires cooperation, not consensus. Of course, no place is purely one or the other. Even in cities, neighborhoods or subcultures may operate on mechanical solidarity. shared traditions, rituals, and common causes, and some small towns, particularly those undergoing economic or social change, may develop forms of organic solidarity. Durkheim thought that organic solidarity is not weaker than mechanical solidarity, but it is more diffuse. It lacks the emotional immediacy of shared ritual and belief. Its collective conscience is thinner, subtler, and more abstract. That makes it fragile, especially during times of crisis. While Durkheim didn't frame it exactly in these terms, the contrast between emotional and rational solidarity is very helpful. Mechanical solidarity feels natural. It has rituals, it has gods, it tells stories about who we are and who the enemy is. It's powerful because it's visceral. Organic solidarity, by contrast, often requires explanation. It asks you to feel allegiance to people you may never meet, and to imagine your well-being as inseparable to theirs. It's less about shared beliefs and more about shared systems. It appeals to reason, structure, and mutual benefit, and that makes it less intuitive, especially in moments of panic or decline. Because when things fall apart, people don't usually crave nuance, they crave certainty. A story where the lines are clear and where the bad guys are obvious. And so, in a crisis, mechanical forms of solidarity tend to resurface. Not because they're better suited to cope with the world we live in, but because they're easier to believe in. And that's where religion often re-enters the picture. Not as theology, but as a form of social regulation. It explains why things are the way they are. It tells people how to act, it ritualizes fear and channels anger. And in its millenarian forms, it offers an elegant script. Things are getting worse, someone is to blame, and thank goodness a savior is coming. We can see these scripts play out in politics, media, and even in tech. They promise renewal without the hard work of mutual adjustment. They dramatize decline and offer redemption, but only through purification and only through exclusion. Durkheim saw this as a danger, not because he rejected solidarity based on shared values, but because he believed that modern societies needed new moral frameworks that could support diversity and complexity without fragmenting into chaos. Organic solidarity, if it's to work, needs its own stories, its own symbols, its own sacred rituals. Not to flatten out difference, but to make difference livable. This is the cultural challenge of our time, to invent new ways of feeling connected, not in spite of our differences, but through them. To build rituals that affirm cooperation, to create moral narratives that hold people together without demanding sameness. Durkheim never claimed this would be easy. In fact, he warned that the transition from mechanical to organic solidarity is dangerous precisely because it loosens the bonds of the past before the new ones are fully formed. People don't just need each other materially, they need to feel like they belong to something. And if that need isn't met with mutual recognition, it will be met with exclusion. Recognizing our interdependence is not a weakness, but the beginning of a new kind of strength. It's the realization that the future of solidarity might not depend on who we are, but what we're willing to build together. So the next time someone talks about the good old days, the return of tradition, the need to purify society before it can all be saved, remember our buddy Durkheim. The true test of society isn't how tightly it can cling to the past, but how courageously it can invent its future. But as always, what did you all think? Is what we need today the organic solidarity that Durkheim saw as so important? Or do we need to go back to mechanical solidarity and pick our tribes and fight it out? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this, you will probably like the Past Present Tense newsletter. It's a weekly newsletter with whatever post you're listening to right now, something cool I found on the internet, the Past Present Tense playlist of 10 songs I've been listening to that week, and one small thought to resonate on for the week. I hope you'll check it out. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.